Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another podcast. This is the Art of Tranquillity podcast, and in this podcast, we talk about all things to do with art and much more. And this podcast is probably going to fit into the much more category because not planned this podcast at all, just hit record, and I'm just going to hope for the best. It's been a long week for me, a long week. So I'm just going to sit here with you all and just chat away in hopes that I can keep the conversation rolling by myself, because we do not have a guest today. Was not able to find one quick enough because for this entire week, well, the last 2 weeks, I would say I've been doing it for 2 weeks. Well, mainly 2 weeks, little bits here and there as well, but mainly. Oh, sorry if I keep going out of focus and out and in of focus again, by the way. It happened a lot in the first episode, I think. I don't know how to get it to, there we go, my hand. My hand's the idea of how to keep it focusing. It's still going to be a work in progress to see how, we can manage to do this. But hopefully you enjoyed last episode as well with a special guest. If you definitely did enjoy them or have not yet seen that podcast, make sure to go see that podcast as well. I filmed it with my best friend and I really did enjoy that. It was almost just it felt like just a conversation really, but it was being recorded pretty much. That's all it really felt like. So I really did enjoy doing that, and I can't wait to start actually branching out to other people as well. But yeah, so throughout this past 2 weeks, I've been mainly focusing on my report for one of my modules in my course that I'm doing. So yeah, I've just been mainly focusing on that. Don't know what to say. See, this is what I haven't planned this podcast, guys. I really don't know what to talk about. I'm looking around to see if there's anything that branches out. But yeah, I have actually been really ill for the past 4 or 5 days. Couldn't get out of bed. I think it was some sort of virus, probably something that I ate, because I was just shivering in my bed for non-stop throughout the entire night, not knowing what to do. And I've never had that bad of a shiver, and it felt so weird because I couldn't control it. I couldn't try and tell my body to stop. I would try to stay as still as possible, add extra blankets, but the annoying part is I was boiling, so I was so warm, but yet shivering, and it was just the weirdest feeling as well, and it wasn't nice, especially on top of that when I was trying to do my report, and I remember it was the deadline of my report, which was a Friday, I think. It was the 10th. It was the 10th, my report. And I had it all done the day before, kind of midday, but I didn't want to send it off yet because I wanted to make sure to read it all over again, just to make sure that there was any little mini mistakes or parts I wanted to change as well, because this is just the first draft of the report. The finale, the final submissions, not April, May. I think it's somewhere in May, but definitely good to start now, because then we'll all hopefully be prepared for the final submission, because it's nice to start, because then it feels a lot smoother than just waiting until the last month to actually do a report. So yeah, we've started that, all submitted the first draft, but the night before I had it all done and I was happy with it. I was happy with the amount that I was actually managing to write about it and the points I made in it, I guess. But so I was going to wait the day before, but then that day, that was the night that I was shivering and couldn't get up, and I felt so ill, and I was also scared to get up, because anytime I'll try it, I physically couldn't because of how cold I felt trying to get out of the bed. So it was really difficult. And I was in and out of sleep the entire night as well. So I think I woke up at I don't even remember. It was there was so many different times. I would wake up at 2, then I'd wake up at 4, then I'd wake up at 6. And I'll just be in and out of sleep. And I was so 6 a.m. and it went it started on Thursday, I think. Or maybe it was the 8th. I think it was the 8th I started. Hard to remember, even though it was only 5 days away, 5 days ago. But yeah, a lot happened in a small amount of time, because it kind of just hit me at night, because I was perfectly fine that day and throughout the entire day. It was when it came to night, and that's when it just like throughout the entire night was just shivering in and out of sleep. Finally got up around like 6 p.m. because I really couldn't get out of bed, and I remember it was the deadline, and then it hit the 7 p.m. and then 8 p.m. And then around like, I think it was around 7 p.m. I decided that I needed to get up because I needed to submit my work that night, and it was already 7 p.m. by then. I'm like, I really wanted to properly read through all of my work, make sure it was all nice and all perfect. Not perfect, because I guess the first draft definitely doesn't need to be perfect, but as long as you've got your work and as long as you've done stuff and it's all filled out and you've did your best for what all of the information that you have currently. So I made sure to at least write everything that I could write about. So I made sure to give it my all, and wasn't able to properly read over all of my work, which was quite annoying. Just because I was really, really ill and I really couldn't. Because like anytime I'd try to look at, because I had to sit up on like my seat, obviously I couldn't do it through bed. If it was from my bed, it probably would have been a bit easier, but like trying to read the words and like it just felt so weird, and like the bright light as well, like it was a lot. But I managed to read through some parts of the introduction, and I did make some adjustments to the introduction to at least have the starting part hopefully flow nicely. But apart from that, I skimmed through the other parts very fast. But I don't think I actually changed much. Made sure all of the word count was correct, because I wanted to make sure at least the things that I wrote was correct. So I did make sure that everything was correct. It's just like, I don't know, but like, you need to make sure that you've read over your work. That's one of your main things, because obviously if you're just typing fast and you've got great points that you want to put down, you're going to be typing fast and there's going to be some sort of error there that the document hasn't picked up on itself. So yeah, that's been like my week so far. Well, now it's Monday, so doing this this needs to be up in 50 minutes, so I've literally left this podcast to the last minute. So I need to make sure that I do want to make sure that I'm at least keeping up to date with these podcasts, so I'm going to be doing my best. But it's been a week. It has. I've not really kept up with much stuff. I've been doing a bullet journal. For people that didn't know, I've did one for each year since 2021. So I did one for 2021. I managed to make the bullet journal until July, and then I did stop my bullet journal as I just couldn't keep going with it, because it was a lot to keep going for a bullet journal. Because for my 2021 bullet journal, I kept like, there was a lot that I had to write down for each day, and I made it too complicated for myself. So then for 2022, I made it a lot easier for myself to do it, because what I do love about bullet journals is trackers and having trackers, because I also love looking back at stuff, which is also another thing why I've got podcasts, because I'd love to look back on these one day as well. So like, I really love making memories and having stuff to look back on. So for the 2022 one, I had a lot of trackers because I felt like they were easy. All I needed to do was get a color, circle it whatever that day or whatever that tracker was for, because I had a bunch of different trackers. I had a tracker for my mood, an exercise tracker, like there was a bunch of different trackers, and I only actually managed to make it to like mid-February until I stopped that bullet journal, which wasn't great. But I don't know why I stopped. I think it's just because I couldn't keep up with it, because I had a bunch of different work for my HND as well, because a HNC to a HND was a big jump, and don't think I was prepared for that. And so when I went into that, it was a big change, and I think I just stopped with my bullet. Well, I did stop with my bullet journal and didn't go back to it, which, you know, not the best. But so now I've started my 2023 journal and going a lot better. Got even more trackers this time, which, you know, I still like my trackers. And this one, it's just pretty much trackers, and then obviously your calendar. And I've got like my to-do lists and little check marks for each day. So just kind of like little things, like if I've drank enough water or if I've been doing skincare, and then I'll just kind of tick those if I've done them as well. And then also for my to-do list, I would write stuff that I wanted to have done for the end of the week, not for specific days, but the to-do list for the week. So I just write anything that I want to have done by the end of that week. And then if that's done as well, which really helps with like my uni work as well, because then if there's a task that I want done as well for myself, if I've put that there, it'll remind me and I'll be like, oh, I need to do that. And then, or if like I'm bored and I need to get something done and I want to do something and I can't remember what I need to be done, it's a great way just to look at and be like, yes, that's what I wanted to do. So yeah, and trying to figure out other stuff to say. We go into a lot of exhibitions recently, which I have been enjoying, going to different exhibitions and seeing different artworks, and also seeing artwork that's a lot similar to mine's, because I love using like watercolors. I would say is my like prime media. So I remember going to Edinburgh and there was like a main exhibition there and seeing all of the it was like it was a exhibition. It was just for watercolor artists, and I didn't realize at the start because some of them didn't even look like watercolors from the different kind of like medias that the mixed medias that they put with it. Until I realized that they were all watercolors, and then that surprised me because I knew most of them were watercolor. I didn't know all of them were watercolor. So looking around and seeing that they were all watercolor was really nice and inspiring as well. And some also that look pretty much identical to the ones that I've made, where they use the exact same like mixed media watercolor, because I like using watercolor but also loved using pen with watercolor, and I saw a bunch of different ones like that, and that reminded me of my own artworks as well. And also some of them used like watercolor paper as well, which I also liked using as well. But yeah, it was nice to see that there was artists that also are using the same media, which obviously that would be a thing. There would always be artists using or kind of looking like yours. I took a pause there. Apologize. These aren't edited in any way, so if I'm pausing, I need to take a pause. But I don't know what else to talk about. I need to figure out of other conversations. I did not plan for this at all. I don't know if I can just continue talking about uni, but I don't know what to talk about. Been doing, oh wait, yeah, I did a presentation recently for my one of my modules, and I wasn't nervous going into that presentation. It was a 5-minute presentation, which that scared me because I don't really do long presentations. Usually it's just like you would do a talk kind of thing and it wouldn't have an actual time to it. But this one was meant to be about like 5 minutes kind of presenting what you wanted to do for that module, because it's kind of an opening for the module that you wanted to do. And I didn't plan too much of it for the presentation. Obviously, I guess you're kind of planning anyway because it's an opening to the module, so you just kind of talk about what you've been doing and what you've been starting to work on and kind of the direction you wanted to go down. So I guess you have been doing work, but for the presentation itself, it's not like I wrote word for word what I wanted to say. You just kind of explain what you've been doing and what kind of media or site or kind of artist you've been looking at and what kind of direction that you've been starting to go down. So I spoke about that and it just kind of rolled off my tongue and started speaking about one thing and then moving on to the next thing, and it was just very gradual, which was really nice to see, and it lasted longer than I thought. It definitely was close to the 5-minute mark, or even at that 5-minute mark, or even pushed a bit further, but definitely was a long presentation that I wasn't nervous or was like I was hoping this was going to end soon, or like when's the presentation over. And I didn't rush myself as well talking about the points that I wanted to cover during it. So I was really pleased with myself about that, because I do tend to like see for presentations, I would make sure that I know what I want to say. And I have timed myself for presentations as well if they are a timed presentation. And I remember for one, it was back in the HND presentation. We had this module, and by the end of it, you got graded on this part, or it was part of your, to see if you can pass. Cause I don't think you didn't get grades for modules on your HND, but for your degree you do. For each module you'll get a grade, but for your HND it was just kind of an overall grade, and it pass and fail for your modules. For this, sorry, for the module that I was doing for my HND, there was this one that I had to do, and I just kind of started speaking with my presentation, and I planned this one in my head, what I wanted to say and stuff. And I started speaking about it, skipped so many points that I wanted to speak about, and then just kind of went blank and didn't know what to say, and I started my eyes started going very watery and then blurry, and then I couldn't see, and then I stopped hearing, and it just felt very weird, and I really didn't know how to I didn't know if I wanted to just begin from the start. But then the lecturer kind of started asking me some questions to help me start speaking again, because I really just went blank and then stopped speaking completely, and then it really helped. It did help me to start speaking, but I did forget to speak about a lot of the points that I wanted to speak about during the presentation, which probably wasn't the best, but it's what happened. But I was glad when it was over. It was always that nice relieved feeling, but with the presentation I just did, it was really nice to actually just start speaking about it all, and it was okay when it was over, but it was okay when I was about to start as well. It was one of my best, or the best presentation that I felt most confident in, and it was one that I didn't really, I guess, properly dive deep into what I wanted to do. But then again, you didn't need to. It was just more like a conversation of what you wanted to do and what you are doing. So I was just kind of talking about the stuff that I wanted to cover in this module. So yeah, I was really proud of myself for doing that also. But yeah, still don't know what to talk about. There's still many things that don't know what I was gonna say. This is so awkward, because I start talking about one thing and then I can go into a tangent, but then when I start talking and then I stop talking, don't know what to talk about. What shall we talk about? I don't know. I just can't tell you. Didn't plan for the podcast. I did not plan for this podcast. I should have, but there was just so much that I was doing. Been going quite a few walks more than recently. Been getting a lot of blisters. Not fan of those. Fan of those. Not fun. A fan. Yeah. That's about it, I would say. But this is the shortest podcast in all of history, and this doesn't count as a podcast. I would not count this as a podcast in the slightest. I need to talk about something else at least, right? The Art of Tranquillity podcast. What would be a good thing to talk about? I can hear rustling. I don't know. It's one of the hamsters for sure. Got hamsters, in case you didn't know. I remember talking briefly about that in the first podcast. But yeah, if you have been enjoying these podcasts, definitely make sure to let me know. And perfect time to ask this. Make sure to leave comments in the comments below about questions you want to ask me, because this would have been a perfect time for me to start reading through them. I could quickly get up my phone and check to see if there has been any comments. I'm not the best at replying to comments. I do my best when I start. I do. But yeah, Silver having a secret dog, biggest scandal of 2023. Yeah, that was surprising to me in the previous podcast where Amy had a a dog. I do slightly remember it, but yeah. Yeah, I don't, there's not really technically comments, it's more about comments about that podcast. But yeah. So I don't know what else to really talk about. But I need stuff to talk about. So definitely make sure to leave them below so I do know. I do have questions because that's all I really need is questions so that I can talk. And I do want to start getting other people onto these podcasts as well that's other than just Amy. But I do want to bring Amy in for our other podcasts as well because it was really fun to have them on. But I also want to get more people. Yes, that's the word. I want more people to interview because that would be very interesting. It would be nice to have these moments with people as well. Because it is like pockets of memory, which is what I really like. I like having these pockets of memory to show these points in life, you know. So yeah, hopefully the next week one would be a lot more interesting because this is probably one of the worst podcasts in history, probably, unless you have enjoyed. Don't let me know, but we need to talk. I need another conversation, or at least another point, because those were just silly points. I need one other main point to talk about, and I don't know what that other point could be. I'm looking around, and I don't know. I could not tell you. Maybe it's like, even like when I'm doing my podcasts, I can have different sections because I wouldn't mind playing like little like silly games, not like an actual video game, but like games that you can play. Like, so there's like a game section, like even towards the end for like the last 20 minutes or so, where you just like, I don't know, because I remember seeing a podcast where they would do that, where they would have like a little gaming section, where they would ask each other questions. You had to guess a word or something like that. I can't remember, but I could do silly things like that as well. So if you've got any ideas of other stuff that I could do for the podcast as well, definitely leave comments. So definitely under this podcast, leave thousands of comments. I don't care how many there is. I'll read through them because I need help for these podcasts because I don't know what I'm doing. But mainly because I don't have a person to ask questions to right now because I've been very ill. Also, my eyes look like they're dead and I have spots, which is lovely, but yes, I don't know what to talk about. Also, if you actually want to show, if I should show you my art for a podcast, let me know and I'll definitely do that. I don't know if there's anything I actually can show you currently, because I don't really have anything to show, if that makes sense. I don't know if I can show past work, but if that's something you want me to show you, I can definitely do that for a podcast as well, where I just go around my art and explain it and talk about it, because that could be a nice thing to do. I wouldn't mind doing that, because that could be a fun idea. So definitely let me know other stuff that you want me to. If you do want me to show my art, definitely let me know. And yeah, I do think that might be, no, that can't be the end. It's too small. I need more. I've disappointed this podcast. This podcast is a disappointment. But I do think I'm going to have to leave it there. And I do apologise for everyone. I've let people down. Unless no one really cares for these podcasts. But I like them, and I'm definitely going to continue them. And this week was just a breather. And by breather, I mean it was a very long week still. But like, in regards to podcasting, this is just a little breeze, you know. But I don't know. Yeah, that's all I've got for today, I think. But if you have enjoyed this weird, short podcast, make sure to thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed and you have watched this podcast, what's wrong with you? But still, make sure to subscribe because the next week's going to be a lot better. Well, I promise. But yeah, I definitely want to show my artworks for a podcast, so I'll definitely do that for one of the podcasts, and I do want to get more people into these podcasts as well, because you were probably all excited to see who I would put in next, and it was just myself with a 25-minute podcast, which probably not what you were expecting, but it's what you got. It's what you got. I do apologise. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching, and don't forget to stick around for next week's podcast, because it's going to be a lot better than this one. And actually, if you have not yet watched any of the other podcasts, definitely make sure to watch them. I'll link both of them actually down in the description, just in case you want to click them, and I'll put them at the end card, probably showing up right now actually, because this is the end. So the end card is probably going to be one right here and one right here, and then the subscribe would be like here-ish, right? I think that's how end card works. So this is the subscribe, this is one of the videos, and this is the other one. That's my about me, and that's the one that I did with Amy. Recommend both if you've not watched them, because it's a lot better than this, and if you like this, those are much better, so go watch them. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you in the next podcast. Bye everybody. Bye.